Welcome everyone to Politically High Tech with your host, Elias. If you care about your reputation, especially online, I'm going to sound a little dramatic here. We are in a surveillance state, and a lot of us put ourselves there, okay? So your reputation is more important than ever, especially digitally, okay? Because you post something that may look fun, but some people can misconstrue that, say, oh, this person likes to party a lot, get drunk, get a bit out of control, and that gets leaked out, and that damages your reputation, and job opportunities are going to be limited at best. At worst, it's gone, obliterated, okay, at least for a while, until you get your act together. Why am I saying this? Because this episode is going to offer you a crisis communications expert, or I'm sure I changed the title around. But that's what I'm going to call it. He's really a communication crisis expert because, look, we're going to have a time where our reputation takes damage. We can try to prevent it. It's going to happen at some point, maybe unintentional leak or someone else try to blackmail, expose us. And you do need a plan. You can't just go, oh my goodness, my life is going to be ruined. Well, it can be if you let it, but there's a solution. And I'm going to introduce you to this solution. His name is John David. It's plain, but you know what? Sometimes plain is effective. Okay? Doesn't always have to be stylish. All right? And I'm just saying, of course, of the name. He has thick skin, I'm sure, and I feel comfortable saying that. And what do you want them to know about you in general?
Sure. Well, you don't get to pick your name, so my mom picked my name, and so that's what we got to go with. So you got to be careful there, step out of line, you insult somebody's mother. But listen, I'm a public relations consultant. I've been in the business for more than 30 years. A few years back, I wrote a book about online reputation issues. And these days I do a lot more consulting. I work with a lot of CEOs and executives, and I also have a pretty robust crisis communications practice where I work with companies that are dealing with issues of all different kinds. I like to start off by saying a crisis is relative, right? It could be something that could be an everyday occurrence with one company, could be a existential problem with another. So it's all relative. And so you're right. It's important to be prepared. There's a lot of ground that we could cover, but obviously there's things about your own personal reputation which people should be careful about. And then your business, how your business is portrayed. For some of us, I am my business, so I can be really careful. I don't want to be too lean in too heavily on controversial stuff because you never know who you might offend. So it's a complex kind of ecosystem, I guess.
Oh, that's putting it mildly, especially with some of the sensitive crowd. And I want to use the political example, and about my name, it's been butchered and destroyed thousands of times. So the nerve of my name being butchered, those nerves are dead long time ago. Alias, I've been called all kinds of names wrongly. But besides that, let me get to the serious topic at hand. Yeah, and when it comes to like online reputation, yeah, it's very, very delicate because especially in politics, I can say this comfortably. If you lean a certain, let's use the Trump MAGA thing, for example, you lean in that direction, the people on the left are going to go crazy. They're going to defame you or attack you and your policies accurately. Sometimes it's accurate. Sometimes it's just political hyperbolic rhetoric, right? And if you are your business, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but yeah, you have to protect it like it's your own life. I think that's how much protection that you need. And I'm not trying to be dramatic. It's just, I'm slowly learning that. I think some of my old episodes might haunt me then pay for it if you want to expose me, especially some of my radical opinions.
Well,
But
yeah,
I just say, lay it out there, and they'll
yeah,
eventually they'll see my own evolution because I curse less. I don't always have to go crazy just to get attention.
yeah. Well,
Um,
listen, I think that there's a lot to be said for all these issues you're bringing up. So the first one is with your own personal reputation, right? First thing is digital is pretty much forever, right? And so you have to be aware of when you're saying things, writing things online that it's going to get uploaded to somewhere in the cloud, and it could be there forever. So it's important that you think before you speak. These days, and I'll touch on the politics in a second, but I always just like to say from a personal standpoint, and then we can talk about the business stuff. From a personal standpoint, I would say, don't say something to someone online that you wouldn't be comfortable saying, like, right to their face. Don't say something in your job. Don't say something about business that you wouldn't be comfortable saying, in the company break room. And then also just be very careful about what you say when it comes to certain, topics. It's like there are old lines, man, that, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, don't, things like those are topics that, that people are emotional about, and you get yourself in trouble. And politics is perfect. Like right now, Donald Trump was elected president of the United States, and love him, hate him, doesn't matter. The point of it is that, he got whatever he got. He's got 52% of the vote or something like that. He had whatever it is. He's got 52% of the people who are registered to vote. There's about 240 million people in America who are over 18 or older, and then of those, there's about looks like about 150 million of them voted, and he got 52%. So you extrapolate out and you realize, okay, number one, everyone didn't vote for him, but a lot of people did. The people who were, everyone had the right to, but they didn't vote for him. And then number two is a whole lot of people didn't vote for him. And so, again, it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter where you fall. But the reality is like half the people don't agree with you where you on politics. So it's in general, just be careful talking about that stuff, I mean, because you could end up, upsetting somebody who's upset, you're in the middle of a job interview and you say something that is offensive to somebody in a political realm, and you may not get the job. You may not get that contract that you're trying to get at, you're a salesperson. You may have, any number of things. You could offend someone by talking about these issues, which are sort of combustible. So that's sort of rule, to me, that's sort of rule number one in the personal world. And it also, again, it bleeds over into your into your business life.
oh yeah, especially the access of information. Yep. I was like, oh, John David said this. Oh, and then, oh, forget it. They could spin
I
it.
just listen.
Yeah.
I was engaged. I engaged on a topic online today, and I ended it by reaching out to somebody, somebody I know, someone who I personally know, has a difference of opinion from me, and I just said, listen, I'm not having this conversation online. I'm not, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not going to do that. I'm very content with what I wrote, what I said online. I wrote some stuff on, put it on, social media. I'm perfectly fine. Anybody I know in the world can read it, and I'm not going to offend anyone or anyone. They shouldn't be offended by me for that, whatever. I don't get to choose who gets offended, but at the same time, it's all defensible. But I also don't want to get into, whatever, face-to-face, head-to-head, argument over some of these things, because it's a no-win situation, So, because again, half the people don't agree with me, and half the people I don't agree with them, and it doesn't matter which side we're talking about. It's both sides.
Yep. And for the offended, I want to talk about those. They'll take that one little clip, take it out of context, and that's enough to do damage to the business, whether it's true or not. Just the fact that it goes out there And we all know, and I even read your profile, which I perfectly agree with. Anyone with a brain should agree with this. Misinformation spreads real quick. It goes real fast. I mean, just look at social media, prime example. Once someone posts something out there, especially if this person's popular or the algorithm loves a message, it's going to go out there. It's not about truth. It's about attention, and it's how much clicks it could get. It's not. If it was about truth, some of the stuff will not be promoted. Okay, let's just be honest. It's not about truth, which is sad, but that's the reality that we are in, right? And that's the unfortunate part. And reputation is very important. I'll say in all, it doesn't matter if I'm talking about politics, technology, all of that. You carry it with you. Some people would sadly say other people that got the right to mold your reputation in that sense. That's why you gotta do certain things. And well, this is why for you, especially those who got damaged reputations, pay attention. Seriously, pay attention. If you have a good reputation, well, enjoy this at your leisure. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Listeners and viewers, just pay attention because this is gonna be some good stuff. So you already got to the politics and the personal. So definitely, and this is very basic, but I think some of you need this reminder. Don't post anything that a movie could consider it labeled PG-13 or rated R. I think you got to aim for that G rating. That's the only analogy I'm going to say, G rating. Not even PG, because PG could be slightly offensive to the super sensitive. PG-13, mildly offensive. Rated R or higher, very offensive. Okay, so there's a positive correlation right there. Stick to rated G if you're not sure. Okay, so that's professional, family friendly, all that. Even though my brand's not the most family friendly, but it can be professional. So if I'm a slight hypocrite on this one, I'm proud of it. I'm looking out for you, not for me. I have my own brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, everything you're saying makes a lot of sense. When I wrote my book, there was a lot of things I wrote. At the time, my kids were like high school age, and I had lots of parents and saying, yeah, I gave your book to my kid. I told them to read it. I read sections of it to them, and it just reminds you that listen, you have to be careful of what you say online and how you behave online, because it's going to be you have it's an incredible tool. This is an incredible tool in everyone's hands, because you can put information that can be read by anybody in the world. You can put it online in 2 seconds. So very powerful. And so so you have to be really careful. With great power comes great responsibility, right? A la Spider-Man. So I think that when that what companies have to do is be aware of monitor what's going on, right? And then also make sure that you're paying attention. You're beyond paying attention to what's being said, that you're responsive if something goes wrong, and that you don't have to be you don't. I think for larger organizations, I think it's valuable to sort of game out what might go wrong and what could be really problematic. At a minimum, you need to have just the basics of a communications plan, that how to how to reach everybody in your company in short order, that how to publish something to your website in short order, that all the passwords for all the social media accounts aren't in Bob's phone, right? That's accessible. You can if you need to communicate, you can. That if you're in a high profile business, that you have someone who understands reputation issues, understands communications, understands PR, media relations, because if something happens and it ends up where you're getting a call from a television station or another media outlet, and they're getting ready to write a story about your company, that you can put forth an effort to try to either shape or mitigate or kill, even sometimes, that story, which could become negative coverage. So there's a lot of things that a lot of things that businesses should be thinking about.
No, I call it the age of information and attention. So it's more important than ever. I think prior to social media, yeah, attention was important and all that, but now it's really in your face. Because everything's about attention and information. Just like you said, it's an amazing tool. It's a double-edged sword. It really depends how you use the tool, right?
Sure.
You get the good, the bad, and the ugly, and even the unknown. The stuff that you think could actually happen.
Well,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, there was a time when, let's say, for example, that, you went to a restaurant and you got lousy service, or you went to go get some work done on your car and you waited forever, right? Or you were at a store, whatever, buying sneakers, and the clerk was, rude, right? What would you do? You say, okay, well, maybe I want to talk to the manager, right? And then maybe you get maybe that makes you feel better a little bit. But if you're like really upset, and you're like, okay, what are you going to do? All right, well, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to go try to look up who the president of this company is. And then I'm going to go reach out to them somehow. And, I mean, like I said before, I'm old enough to remember when from a pre-internet person. So like, yeah, I'm going to write a strongly worded letter and send it to the president of the sneaker company. Right. And that's a ton of work, right? All these steps I'm describing. And even if it's today and you want to go, okay, I go home, I go look online, I go see that the president of the company, this guy, I could reach out to him on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. It's still a bunch of steps. But now, if you get lousy service at a restaurant, you can take out your phone and open up Yelp and you can write a bad review before the check comes. So it's instantaneous. And so you have to pay attention to these things. Because that can have, if you're a brand new restaurant, and if you know anybody who's in the restaurant industry, you've heard these horror stories that, somebody goes in and they get a bunch of bad reviews right when they start, and maybe it's just because they just don't have their act together yet. The restaurant never takes off because there's no, when somebody goes to look at the reviews on Yelp, it's all 1, 2s, and 3s, I'm not going to go to 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to go spend my hard-earned cash to go out for my Friday night date night at some place that's a 2-star place. So it can have a dramatic impact, all the way around, because it's so instantaneous. So that's one issue. And then the other part, which I was kind of leading to before, is that some businesses you have, and the restaurants is just a really easy one to talk about, because you think about, for example, if you went to your like local fast food place, right? Local burger place, franchise place, right? A national brand, Golden Arches or whatever, right? I'm saying, In-N-Out, or where it depends on where you are. And you're in that one location in your town, wherever it is in America, and a mouse runs across the floor, that's unfortunate for McDonald's or Burger King or In-N-Out or whatever, right? And what's going to happen is you're going to have probably a bunch of local people are kind of like, did you hear what happened? Did you see this? Or they read a review or whatever. But McDonald's is going to be fine. In-N-Out Burger is going to be fine. Burger King is going to be fine, right? But if a mouse runs across the floor of your local family-owned restaurant, at 8:15 on a Saturday, that's existential. That could kill a business. So crises is a relative thing. So, you have to be prepared for, the stakes are higher for some businesses than others. And then with big companies, they often have more at stake because they have like bigger problems. The company that's in the news right now more than any other with multiple crisis situations is Boeing. Boeing's had these issues. They had the Max 8 and the software, and planes that crashed and people died. They had the door blown out of one of the flights. They just had a strike that ended. And they're in that company, in my opinion, is in the middle of an existential crisis because there's so many things that are wrong. Oh, they got 2 astronauts stranded on the International Space Station too, right? So if Boeing used to be, a blue chip brand, with a sterling reputation, and now you hear it, and you're like, oh, do you want to buy Boeing stock? Are you gonna let your engineer kid go work there? Are you gonna, it's really it can be a huge issue. These can be huge issues for them. It's been several issues compounding. But they're having like a major. They're in a major crisis mode over there.
Oh, Boeing. I think you already touched on this, I'm sure, but I want to have a pretty clear definition of what a communication crisis is for those who are just tuning in. Or
well, see, I think that that's a relative thing, right? So, like I said, you could have, what happens with what happens with a company. It just depends. It's like if you can have. If again, some of these bigger organizations, they can weather things better, but some they're it's pretty rare. Like most businesses are not going to deal with like a catastrophic existential crisis in their company. It's generally not going to happen, but it's likely that it'll happen in everybody's industry, And the thing is that, and to me, it's how do you define a communications crisis? So for example, if you're a business and one of your, let's say you're a law firm and one of your top partners is accused of sexual harassment. Got yourself a communications crisis, right? You have that if you're in a business and you're a company in finance, you handle people's money, right? And somebody has a problem. People aren't able to get to their money. You got a communications crisis. There's certain businesses that I think always are going to have a lot of trouble on like review sites, and like banks and credit unions. They're always going to have a lot of issues online, because when you make a mistake and involve somebody's money, they get really, really mad. It's one thing if you get it's one thing if you don't, whatever, you lose your, your reservation isn't held, at the rent-a-car place. That gets you mad. But if your check doesn't get deposited on time, that's a whole cascading effect, right? People get really upset about that. But I think you have, these days, there's issues, there's malfeasance at companies, there's people, you have people who steal from their employers. You have folks who just do, like I said, you get back to stuff like sexual harassment, you get back to like employee theft. You have folks who say things, politically incorrect, in a business forum. All those things are all very possible, So I think it's all relative, and most companies, they don't think in those terms. But I would say that you have these days, there's a lot of potential, potential energy being built up that could end up, coming back to haunt you if you have a problem.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we did the diagnosis. We gave mild to existential levels of threat, and, they all are legitimate. This is not John David and I just making things up. I mean, just pay attention to the news. You can easily find a communications crisis, because that's what the news needs to report it. A crisis, all right? Just think of it that way. It's like, oh, yes, it makes sense, okay? Just connect the two dots like that, and you can easily understand with enriched context of what we were talking about. Yeah, Boeing is such a great example. And what was the other one that went through trouble? Oh, I refuse to call it X. Twitter with Elon Musk with his shenanigans, but it seems like he's pretty resilient. I think he's more somewhat of an exception, or what's your take
I
on
would
that one?
say he's an exception because he's, the richest guy in the world, and he put his money where his mouth is. He bought the platform, and the rules are different. I don't know you, Elias, but I'm just guessing you're not a billionaire. The rules are different.
Oh yeah, yep. You'll be right
So
to say I'm not a billionaire. I don't have the two favorite levers that F you money. No, not there yet. So
yeah.
does it put it does it
But
put us a
so there's a
little
lot.
bit
The
of
rules for Mr. Musk are a little bit different than the rules for everybody else. It's just the way it is. But the I mean the thing that I see, I mean, that is what this the type of things that I work on. Is my clients will get a phone call, something happens with their business, they get a phone call from a journalist, somebody who works at a local newspaper or TV station, and how do you what do you do when that happens? And that's more, and that's way more likely to happen than than getting a call from, like, whatever, the Wall Street Journal or NBC network news or something like that. That and sometimes you get a call and it's unfounded. So the first step is triage, find out exactly what's going on. A lot of times people will get upset about a company or an organization. They can't, they don't feel like they're being heard, which just goes back to point number one, which is monitor stuff, have good customer service, treat your customers right and your clients right, and you can knock a lot of problems out before they ever happen. But if they don't feel like they're being heard, and then they reach out and call the help desk at the local TV station, and then they call you up and they're like, "Oh, hey, we heard this happened to one of your customers, and what do you have to say about it? We're getting ready to run a story on this, and tonight at 5." And so you have to, you got to triage that situation. And I've done that plenty of times. And sometimes the companies, sometimes they screwed up, and you just got to say, "Hey, we screwed up, we screwed up, and we're going to try to make it right." Sometimes you say, you got to give me a little bit of time on this, because what you've been told is not accurate. And, the person who's upset, they have every right to be upset, but they don't have the right to, call you up and not tell you everything, to just tell you half. And then sometimes you can reach out and inform the journalist of the other half. And they'll say, "Oh, I didn't know that." And and it's sort of, all of a sudden it's less newsworthy and less interesting and less shocking. And you can make something go away. You make bad news go away before it ever emerges. But you have to be active, and you have to have kind of at least have this little plan in place where you're prepared to react. And your first reaction should not be, "Oh, I'm just going to ignore this and see, if they go away." Like, that's generally not the right move. Because again, think about the example I was just telling you. Somebody's upset with your company. They're feeding half of this dramatic story to the reporter. There's no reason for the reporter to not, if you don't call them back, that's not a reason for them to not try you again. Now, they may not call you back, but because, again, an hour later, something else could happen that's big. But, putting your head in the sand and ignoring it, that's not a strategy.
And it seems like that's what some of these companies have done with the crisis. Just put their head down, just put the head down. Oh, can't even speak. It just magically hope the problem just go away, but it just gets worse. I mean, ignoring it is just not the way. So I don't own a big business, but even I know that. I mean, you already said a couple of things that's very important. Make sure the listeners, if you're getting this right, accountability, take accountability. Communicate, resolve the issues, be solution oriented. Don't be a fertilizer to the problems just by ignoring, "Oh, I'm just gonna hope it's gonna go away." Then, okay. Houdini came and the whole problem ran away. No, it doesn't go like that. Your actions is more magical than hoping for Houdini to come down just to magically clean up for you. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And trust me, I'll say more conscious of reputation, not like in a paranoid kind of way, but I'm just saying, does it serve value? That's the kind of mindset I have now. Even if I have to say some little shocking and raw, before I was just like shock and awe, especially in my older days in the podcast. So now I'm just like, does it serve a real purpose to benefit humanity? If a little shock and awe helps, fine, but I'm not going to use it as a primary tool. My primary tool is to make sure that you get the message. Hopefully you improve. That's more my main focus. And put some entertainment on that inside. That's what I try to do here.
Makes sense.
Yeah, make infotainment, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
But yeah, I hope you're really listening here, because this is very important stuff, especially if you own the business, especially yourself as a brand. I'm going to call you brandable people. If yourself is a branded business, you better be paying attention to this, because reputation damage, your cash flow income is going to be damaged. Opportunities is going to be damaged. I'm just putting it mildly. I mean, to your point, most of it's not going to be existential, but some will cause some damage if you ignore it.
Listen, I'll tell you a story. So I mean, aside from the fact that any company could become the victim of like workplace violence, any company could have a private data breach. And, any company could have become a victim of a phishing scam or whatever. But individuals, things can turn and go wrong, in a really quickly. And I had a guy reach out to me a few years back. He had some real problems. I think he had some mental health issues. But he was running a company in the construction industry. He was building homes, and he was small time kind of general contractor kind of a guy. And he was at the local coffee shop, brand name coffee shop. I'm not necessarily going to say who it is. And he didn't get his coffee at the time he thought he was supposed to get his coffee. He got upset. He went to go talk to the folks at the counter. There was like an altercation. He kind of lost his temper, and he went, and while this was escalating and brewing, as it was getting worse, somebody took out their phone and videotaped this guy losing his mind, at the coffee shop. And the guy, the person who was filming it, put it up on YouTube an hour later, and tagged the local TV station, and they came out and they did a story on this whole huge altercation. And then whatever, a couple of days later, after the story hit, the next day after the story hit, this guy lost basically all of his clients. They just said he was so abusive to this lady at the coffee shop that they said, we don't want to work with you anymore. And he lost his business, and he ended up leaving town. And I think part of his issue was he had some mental health issues. Like, I'm the farthest from a mental health professional as possible, but maybe bipolar or something like that. But it can happen, man. It can happen. There's a million examples like this, that you end up, somebody goes and says something and does something, and it not only does it hurt your personal reputation, it's one thing if you can't get a date, right? It's another thing if you can't get a job. So, that's if you're all of a sudden you're unemployable because of something you've done in the world, it's bad.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And this is why I would say this, right? Introspect, try to get help before things blow up. Because if you don't take care, if you neglect parts of yourself, it's going to simmer, and it's going to brew, and it's going to explode.
Yeah. And in that particular case, it falls into the category that I call kind of catastrophic. And when somebody calls me up and they've had this like catastrophic situation, I usually just tell them, listen, you're in, I mean, you could hire me and pay me a lot of money, but guess what? You're not gonna, you probably don't have enough. Because this is what the situation you're in is going to take a long time to remedy, because it happens. It happens. People do things. They do really stupid things. They really do really dumb things, and it can follow them. Follow them forever.
Yep. It's sad that is unfortunate. I'm not gonna gloat and laugh about that because that's just cruel. But that could happen to you. I mean, I think it was twice in my life it almost happened to me. That's why I meditate, be self-aware of your emotional state, mental state is very important. I mean, listeners, you already heard about me. You already know about me, wanted to strangle coworker for just trying to sabotage or antagonize me, or just try to ruin everything to make my life a living. You know what? But I said, what's the consequences after that? Will it be worth it? Yeah, you feel good for 5 seconds at best.
Oh yeah,
but the consequences.
Absolutely. Listen,
consequences gonna last much longer than
that. Absolutely. And I'll say that it feels good for less than 5 seconds. It feels good for about a millisecond, and it's that millisecond when you were trying to restrain yourself and you can't. It's the old line. It's like the words come out of your mouth and you wish you could take them back. You see them leaving your mouth and wish you could take them back. Yeah, they're absolutely workplace is huge. Because we're just listen. There's let's go watch episodes of Mad Men. Right, it's the way it used to be. Right, it's not like that anymore. And it's the same thing. Go watch episodes of The Office. Right, like there's things that you watch the things that happen. That's not how you're not allowed to do that kind of stuff. And so and it's. I don't make the rules. I'm not the office police. But I know what the HR people are going to say. And so, you gotta be aware of that. I mean, yeah. And the same thing is if you're a company and your employees are step out of line and you don't deal with that appropriately, you can end up having a big problem, a whole other problem. If you're seen as a hostile workplace, or if you're seen as somebody who's like, who's turning a blind eye to potential sexual harassment, if you're, those are all reputation killers.
Yep, was a negligence for people who turn a blind eye, and then that's fertilizing conflict. You don't want to be the fertilizer for conflict. And they want to try to control it, and then of course, ideally,
fertilizer for conflict. I like it.
Just clean it out. Destroy it from the root and atomical level. All right. So that's what I'm going to say. And that me have that solution oriented mindset does matter. Before I just think about, what's best for me, screw everybody else. That is a fertilizer of conflict. All right. So if you think solution oriented, you will, knock down many, many problems. And if not, get some help if you can't do it. So it could be psychological, financial, whatever. I'm not your expert here. You know your life. You do some introspection, and then you could just, resolve whatever issue. I mean, it's important. I mean, this has come from someone who has dealt with depression and even near suicide. So I know what I'm talking about.
My gosh.
So I know what I'm talking about here. I mean, I get it. All situations are unique. And that's why you have to do your own introspection. We just talk about the generals here.
Sure.
Because we cannot dig and talk about 8 billion different problems. Even within America, over 350 billion different problems. Yeah. That's impossible and it's impractical. And trust me, I think we both would die because we haven't taken care. We neglected our physical health, mental health, all the other health gone. Okay, so we just can't do that. All right, so we saw the generals, the major examples, and then you can apply some of it to your life. So ironically, this is not just a tech episode. This is even development as well, because this could be a teachable moment. And it has a little bit of political. So this is an ideal episode. It's a little bit of the three type of three type of episodes I normally do. A little bit of the three, even a little bit of politics in there. Even though I keep that to a minimum because that's just, listen, that's risky on its own. Unless you're in a left-wing camp, your job is to be pro-left, fine. You know what message is good for them. And then the same thing for the right. You know what messages are good for them. Know your audience. Know who's going to be receptive. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Because you approach MAGA stuff to lefties, you're pissing off a lot of people. And if you preach, vice versa, you're asking for a fight. You're just, like I said, don't be the fertilizer of conflict.
Listen, it's really, I think it's important to, man, a lot of the personal stuff is just kind of that old, what you learned in kindergarten kind of thing. Be kind to your fellow man, it's really important. Know who your friends are, know who you can talk to about things, and, that you won't be judged. And, those are all important things. And because we're in a time, like you're right. I mean, there's a time, this is very volatile things, or folks are getting really, are very fired up about certain issues. And, like I said, it doesn't matter which side you're on, because the other, there's 150 million people on the other side of you, no matter how you slice it. So, the big thing, I want, you did talk about AI, and I think, in my world, where AI came in very early, with ChatGTP and the ability to, for AI to write for you, and it was, very quickly, okay, is students using AI to write term papers and stuff like that. And I think AI is a great tool. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't replace ideas, but it's a great tool. And I look at it, and I was, my lifetime, I went to journalism school, and when I was in journalism school, when I first started in journalism school, we were using typewriters. And by my senior year in college, we were using PCs for the first time. So I went through the sort of, typewriter to PC revolution, and then we went to the internet revolution, which changed things so dramatically. I think AI is the next big one, and it can make your life a lot, make your life a lot easier. But you have to be really careful about, attribution, and that you're using your own original ideas, and, because eventually, I mean, I can already tell, I can tell when somebody's used, for example, I get emails from people every once in a while, and they're way longer than this person has ever written to me before. And there's phrases that they just don't use. And you sit and go, yeah, they used AI to write this to me. And honestly, I have no problem with it, because it's a tool. It's the same thing. Like, are you going to be upset that I used a word processor instead of a typewriter? Are you being upset that I got better information in my document because I went online and used the internet to do research? So am I able to take my thoughts and shoot them in, and use AI to just basically process them faster? But I think the downside is that you're going to have, where it starts to replace, human ideas. That's the big difference. The big difference is that, if you use this as a tool to help push your own ideas and your own concepts, then I think you're going to be fine. But if you decide that you're just, I don't want to, and again, the high school term papers, perfect example. I don't want to read David Copperfield. I just want art. All I need is 800 words on David Copperfield. Why would I, then you're going to be in trouble, because eventually the teachers are going to figure it out. And the same thing in business. It's like, if you're, I look at it like, it's kind of like, in the movie Jurassic Park, the original Jurassic Park movie, they took they couldn't finish the gene sequence, and so they put the frog DNA in, right? And that changed the dinosaurs. And the same thing, AI, if you go, it's like what you put in, like it's going to go find some frog DNA, which is eventually going to bite you, it's eventually going to come back and get you. And so I just think you have to be really careful with that. But I think the technology now, it's pretty incredible how it's being used, to, from everything in the medical field to the business field. And it certainly should not be a dirty word.
Oh no, I agree. My overall opinion, it is a great tool. It has, of course, some great potential. You already said the positives. I'm going to balance out saying the negatives, how it could cause communication crisis. Edited fake videos of this person saying something that he or she never said, or perform something that he or she has never done. Things like this damage reputations. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, no, it's a big concern when you see, because you see it and it's like, the I've been tricked by AI stuff online. Most of the time it's not anything significant. It's just like, there was this guy who had like figured out how to make himself look like Tom Cruise and would do this stuff. I was like, man, that's Tom Cruise, but like, it's not Tom Cruise, but it looks like Tom Cruise. And like that stuff's gonna happen, and it's gonna be what's sad about, you know some human beings, that they always look for the worst thing to do with something. They look for, they're instead of, here's a guy who, makes himself look like Tom Cruise to try to get clicks, and somebody sees that and they goes, oh yeah, I can make, I can make my girlfriend a porn star with this, I mean, that's really, really scary. And I think that's, one of the things that when my online reputation book came out, I spoke on the topic all around the country. And one of my it was like a big laugh line is I would just, I would say, listen, we just have to, stop taking pictures of your private parts, man. Stop doing crazy stuff, And I would say, tell your daughters not to take pictures of their private parts, not to take pictures of, not to send topless pictures to their boyfriends, and tell your sons to stop asking for it. I mean, it's not a one-way street. And the same thing is that you realize that these, because digital can very much be forever, you just got to be careful, and you got to be careful who you associate with. It's more important than ever. It's like, everybody who's had some life experiences has been around the wrong kind of people at some point in time. You may have been around them for 2 minutes, you may have been around them for 2 years, but you've been around the wrong kind of people. And, you have to, the people that aren't the right kind of people for you. And you have to just make sure that that you're watching, you're kind of keeping your nose clean. It's like it's just simple. It's super easy for me to say, here, but it's kind of, and part of it is, I got 2 20-something kids, so I know we have these conversations, remind them, don't just remember that stuff, and they're pretty good about it. But sometimes we make bad decisions, or we make poor judgments, or we get tricked.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it needs to be said. Yeah, I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but it needs to be said. It needs to be emphasized, right? Because
Sure.
also, forget it. It's going to be porn central all over the internet, and sadly, these things has already happened. And I like what you said about associating with the wrong kind of people. Yeah, we all have it for 2 seconds or 2 years, and the longer we are with them, the more it damages our reputation. So the faster we get out, the faster we could, quote unquote, recover.
Now,
And
one thing
yeah.
that I think is really interesting and is sort of heartening for me, as so I'm a Gen X, okay? So I'm 56 years old. And I hear Gen Zers or whatever talking, and they talk about things like, oh, this, this person's toxic, or they say something like, it's like, I need a wellness moment or whatever. And I think all that's actually incredibly healthy. I think, because I think that a lot of that stuff, when I was in my 20s, when I was, even whatever, my 30s, like we just didn't like talk about that. We really didn't think about our own mental health that much. We were just doing what we're supposed to be doing, what we thought we were supposed to be doing. And so I think that there's a lot to be said for the next generation, Gen Z and whoever is after Gen Z. I don't know who that is right now, but that group, that they have an incredible potential to do incredible things. And one of the reasons why is because of this, self-awareness, which is a good thing, and also aware of what's going on and these powerful tools and whatever the next powerful tool is going to be, because there's going to be more, this is the, smartphone's like 20 years old, right? So there's going to be something else.
Yeah. There may be like a hologram or something like that. That's why everyone could predict.
You never know. You never know.
I want to say is that there was one celebrity who she took a mental health break and then she came back strong. Oh, Simone Biles.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great example of that. And I, some people's criticize, oh, that's so weak, whatever. I said, no, but we go through stuff and life is very different. Like, let's see, 2024 is very different from even, I could confidently say, like even 90s. Okay. And I experienced both of them. The times these are radically different times. And look, things are more fast paced. We got access to more information, even access to more junk. Let's be honest, it's a double edged sword. Especially depends how you use it.
Yeah.
And I think mental health breaks is a good thing.
Yeah, I think that when you look at I always, try to suggest, okay, what, put yourself in that other person's shoes, right? I mean, Simone Biles, whatever, Taylor Swift, famous people, right? You might think, okay, they have nothing to worry about, right? I mean, they're rich, they're attractive, they're smart, they've got everything going for them. But, I know for me that when I'm, for example, if I'm working on something and I'm in front of clients like for all day long, right? It's stressful, right? And I feel at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. Like because I feel like I'm like kind of on stage for 8 hours if I'm with like clients traveling or at meetings or something like that, that I've got to be fully aware of everything I'm doing. And I, got to make sure I don't say the wrong thing. And I'm working, doing all my work related stuff. Right. And imagine if that's your life, like all the time. Imagine, and imagine that at the same time, you have people judging you all the time. If you're imagine, whatever, look on Twitter /X about, any celebrity, and you'll see there's half the people are bashing them for some reason or another. And that's something that, the rest of us we don't have that, I mean, I know there's nobody out like, judging me, there's nobody wondering me, looking at me and wondering and judging whatever it is in any part of me. And so I think that, like I said, I think there's a awareness of these things is really high, and it can help you, because the online world, it can be brutal, man. It can be brutal. And there's lots of folks out there who are, hiding behind anonymity. And if you're a well-known person, I mean, I don't do like celebrity PR or anything like that, but if you're a well-known person, there's a lot of issues there, a lot of potential pitfalls, because you make a misstep, and, they're watching how much you tip at a restaurant. They're watching how nice you are to the doorman. They want to make sure you're not, that you're polite to your dog walker, and these may sound like rich people problems, but at the same time, it's like, just, where anything can happen. And that's why I say, when it comes to online issues and when it comes to like communications and crisis communications, the strange things happen in every business. They just need to be aware of what's going on and watching what's going on around them, so that they can respond if something does turn.
Yep, no, that's well said. Well, you may not be a celebrity PR, but you still do important PR with businesses, and that's still very, very essential. That's still needed, and I'm not going to knock you down for that.
Listen, small business, like I said before,
businesses are essential.
A small business is just as at risk of a problem as a big business. Again, I have clients. They're big organizations. They have sales. They have revenue in the hundreds of millions of dollars plus, and they can have a problem that could cost them a lot of money, but they're probably going to be fine. But if you're in a small business and you don't have that cushion, you don't have that financial wherewithal to deal with that crisis, and that you could be done. You could be, like I said, like the contractor. He's out of business. So
Yep, the anonymous contractor, and that anonymity is for his benefit. That's what I'm gonna say. And I am respectful of that. I'll never ask, "Ooh, what's this person's name? What do you look like?" No. I will not want anyone doing that to me, even though some of you filthy trolls out there. I don't, shame on you. That's what I'm gonna say, you cowards. Anyways, so. Let's do that plug-in. Why are we talking about all this communication stuff? It's just random. No, because he runs a PR firm. All right. Let's do that shameless plug. Let's plug that business in, and whatever else you want me to plug in, let's do that right now. It's not just here for nothing. So this is David PR Group, all right? He has a phone number. Yes, I rarely do phone numbers, but they're still important. They exist. It's a smartphone, okay? So I just gotta go a little old school here. I don't mind. I think my mind is more Gen X, even though I'm a millennial. So the phone number is 305-724-3903. I'm going to repeat that again. 305-724-3903. Okay. Look, if you're having a reputation issue, there's a guy you're going to need contact. All right. And it's not just that, he can deal with, he does with a whole bunch of stuff. Corporate startups, commercial financing. Ooh, very important. Insurance, real estate, automobile dealerships. Yep, all of them could be prone to communication crisis, especially if something just happened. You can't prevent all of it, but hey, at least you got a fighting tool against it, okay? You can't prevent it. And you could call that number for free consultation, or you could contact him through email, just like what some normal people do these days. So I'm going to link his site as well, and check it out. Check it out, especially if you're having reputation damage, okay? Or you just want to know about it, or you think, or you're about to start experiencing one. Contact him, all right? Small or large, he's inclusive on that. So, is there anything else you want me to add before I wrap this up?
Listen, I think you've covered it. Like I said, my website's davidpr.com. I'm always open to talk to people if they have issues or problems or concerns. They need a sounding board. I mean, this is what I do, and I'm always happy to talk to somebody and if I can't help them, I can point you in the right direction or give you some advice. I'm wide open to have have a conversation. If you have any concerns about these sorts of issues for your business and you want to try to be better prepared, we can work on a plan to do that. And if the stuff hits the fan, then you need somebody to call that local TV reporter for you. I mean, there's value in having a third party do it, by the way, because there's a lot of value to having. I know how they operate. I know what the rules of engagement are, and I know how to speak their language, and so there's value in having a third party person help you. Because we are in the shameless plug part of the call of the.
Hey, if it's relevant, I mean, you could have been plugging this in 5 times. I'll be okay with it as long as it's relevant. That's my only. It's not even a rule. That's just, to me, that's just my guideline, because I don't really have strict rules for that. So, hey, I mean, there's some people that plugged it in, especially if it's perfect. Like, oh, yeah, you go check this out. This thing's happening. I know it's a little tasteless to some of you. Oh, well. Okay, he already gave you some free tips, okay? Give him a break. All right, I'll just add my little contribution, if you will, to it. He already gave you some free tips, all right? So, If you're critical on that, you got a problem. Look, you need money. You need to spend some money, especially if you cannot solve the problem yourself. Okay, that's why services exist. So, anything else you want to add before I wrap this up?
Thanks for the opportunity. It was fun.
All right, no, thank you. So, for whenever you start listening to this podcast, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.
So, one more thing I need to plug in for this episode. Support this guest, John David, by purchasing his book called How to Protect or Destroy Your Online Reputation, the essential guide to avoid digital damage, lock down your brand, and defend your business. You can easily find this on Amazon. I'll provide the link at the description of this episode. Thank you and enjoy your life.